If people can see how you're improving, you're already moving too slowly. The fastest growth doesn't happen on stage. It doesn't happen in the crowd. It happens in the shadows, where no one is watching and no one can interfere. The truth is, most people train for the eyes of others. They want applause. They want proof. They want to be seen working. But Miyamoto Musashi understood something they didn't. The moment the world starts watching your growth, it starts shaping it. And that's when you begin to slow down. Musashi wasn't just a samurai. He was a strategist, a philosopher, a man who played the long game better than anyone of his time. He fought over 60 duels, life or death, and never lost. Not because he was born with some mystical gift, but because he mastered the art of becoming stronger, without the world realizing he was becoming stronger. While others bragged about their progress, Musashi concealed his. While others showed off new techniques, he buried his until the moment they were needed. He became in every sense a ghost in plain sight, someone whose growth was invisible until the moment it became undeniable, and by then, it was already too late for his enemies to catch up. This isn't a lesson about working harder in public. It's about building a kind of power that no one else can track, a skill set that advances so quietly that people don't even realize you've passed them. It's the difference between moving with noise and moving with inevitability. Because when you improve in the open, your rivals adjust. They watch your style, they adapt to your methods, they plan for your strengths. But when you improve in the dark, they don't even know what's coming. And when the day comes to reveal your full ability, it's like showing up to a duel with an entirely new weapon they've never seen before. That's how Musashi operated. And that's why he remained undefeated. So in this video, we're going to step into Musashi's hidden world. We're going to study the silent habits, the mental traps he avoided, and the invisible disciplines that made his growth unstoppable. This isn't about chasing recognition. It's about designing a path so secret, so personal, that no one can compete with you, because no one even knows the game you're playing. If you're serious about becoming unshakable like Musashi, subscribe now so you don't miss the next lesson. And if you've already subscribed, you're already ahead of most people. Most people think training is about showing up and showing off. They believe progress should be displayed, documented, and shared with the world in real time. But Musashi, he understood that the real work happens in places no one sees. His training wasn't a performance. It was a forge, a hidden forge. And like any blacksmith worth their salt, he knew the most valuable weapons aren't crafted in public view. They're shaped in the dark, hammered in private, sharpened without an audience. Musashi never revealed his full skill in practice matches or casual displays. He never gave his opponents a complete picture of what he could do. If they thought they'd seen his best, they were already wrong, because his best was kept locked away until it mattered. Until steel met steel and hesitation meant death. Think about what that does to an opponent. They come in thinking they understand your range, your speed, your strategy, and then, in the heat of battle, you do something they've never seen before, something you've practiced 1,000 times in silence. They freeze, they falter, and in that instant, they lose. Now here's the part most people don't want to hear. If you want to grow faster than the people around you, you have to stop giving them a front row seat to your progress. Train in private. Reveal in public only when it's strategically necessary. That doesn't just apply to combat. It applies to everything. In business, the quiet builder always wins. The startup that works in silence, developing features and strategies before announcing them, launches with a product nobody saw coming, and instantly dominates the space. In art, the creator who develops their skill in the shadows suddenly releases a masterpiece, while everyone else is still drip-feeding work-in-progress shots to keep people's attention. In sport, the athlete who trains without live streams, without constant social posts, walks into competition with a level of improvement no one prepared for. The element of surprise is leverage. It's psychological warfare, because when your rivals think they know your limits, they stop growing to surpass them. They slow down. They think they've matched you, maybe even passed you, and all the while, you're working in silence, getting sharper, faster, smarter, until one day they realize they've been chasing a shadow. Here's what most people don't understand. When you constantly show your progress, you're not just inviting praise, you're inviting interference. You're letting people comment on your work, shape your decisions, and adjust their strategies to counter you. And every bit of that steals from the purity of your growth. Secrecy removes that distraction. It keeps your energy focused inward instead of outward. You stop chasing validation and start chasing mastery. You stop trying to look like you're improving and actually start improving. Musashi understood this deeply. He wasn't just hiding skills to be clever. He was controlling the flow of information. In strategy, the less people know about you, the more power you have over them. That's why every move you make, every skill you sharpen, should be considered classified until it's ready to be deployed. You don't owe anyone proof that you're working. You don't need to announce every small win. You don't have to let people peek behind the curtain until you decide it's time. Because when you hide the forge, you control the reveal. And when you control the reveal, you control the game. So ask yourself, right now, how much of your growth is visible to the world? How much of your training, your planning, your preparation is happening where others can see it? And more importantly, what would happen if you went dark? If you took the next 6 months to work in silence, with no proof, no updates, no hints, what would you be capable of unveiling when the time finally came? That is the power of Musashi's way. The fewer people know, the harder it is for them to prepare for you. And when they can't prepare, they can't win. And this is where most people stop. They hide their training, yes. They keep their plans quiet, yes. But they forget the next part, the part Musashi understood so well. Hiding the forge is only half the battle. The other half is sharpening the mind that guides the blade. Musashi's life wasn't just about motion, it was about stillness. After battles, after training, even in the middle of travel, he would spend hours alone, walking through forests, sitting beside still water, letting the world grow quiet enough for him to hear his own thoughts. And in that stillness, he reflected. He didn't just think about what happened. He dissected why it happened, what worked, what failed, what patterns repeated themselves, every duel, every encounter, every decision, broken down until the lessons were clear. This is where growth accelerates, not in endless motion, but in the pause that comes after. Because repetition without reflection is just motion without meaning. You can swing a sword 10,000 times and still be mediocre if you never stop to understand how you're swinging it, or why it failed when you needed it most. Musashi knew that battle wasn't just physical. It was a mental game, one you could only win if you were willing to study yourself as ruthlessly as you studied your enemy. And here's where you can take his lesson into the modern world. No matter what your battle is, business, art, sport, leadership, reflection is your secret accelerator. Keep a war journal. At the end of every day, write down your wins, your mistakes, your fears, and your patterns. Ask yourself, where did I hesitate today? What did I avoid, and why? What felt harder than it should have? What felt easier than I expected? This isn't busy work. It's how you turn random experiences into deliberate skill. Here's the psychology behind it. When you reflect, you force your brain to relive an experience in a controlled way. That's when the learning sticks. That's when connections are made between what you did and what you should do next time. Without this step, you're just stacking experiences with no structure, hoping that practice makes perfect will eventually kick in. But the truth is, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. And perfect practice requires feedback. The fastest feedback you'll ever get comes from yourself. While others keep running on the treadmill of repetition, you're dissecting, refining, and adjusting. 1 hour of reflection can be worth 10 hours of blind effort. That's why Musashi improved faster than those around him. Not because he trained harder, but because he trained smarter. Think about it. Most people finish a task, close the book, and move on. They never stop to ask why they succeeded or why they failed. They just assume they'll do better next time. But if you don't know the reason behind the result, how can you guarantee the outcome will change? Musashi didn't leave it to chance. He studied himself like a scientist studies a rare phenomenon. Every weakness became a puzzle to solve. Every mistake became a map to a better version of himself. So here's your challenge. Don't just work. Pause. Study. Adapt. Take those few minutes each day to capture the truth of your progress. If you're serious about improving faster than everyone else, your war journal should become your most valuable weapon. Because reflection is what turns effort into evolution. It's the difference between someone who spends 10 years doing the same thing badly and someone who spends 1 year improving like they've been at it for a lifetime. And in the game of secret growth, the one who reflects rises quietly, relentlessly, and far faster than those who simply repeat. Reflection is what turns effort into evolution. And once you've started evolving, you face the next question. Where do you put your energy? This is where Musashi's wisdom cuts deeper than most people are willing to hear. He said, "You must understand that there is more than one path to the top of the mountain. But all paths begin with the same thing, the fundamentals." For Musashi, that meant strikes, stances, and footwork. Not glamorous, not flashy, invisible to the average onlooker, but decisive in the moments that mattered. When he fought, people saw brilliance. They saw perfect timing. They saw moves that looked effortless. What they didn't see was the years spent drilling the same motions thousands of times until they burned into his body like muscle memory. This is the hard truth. Most people want the mountaintop view without the climb. They skip the fundamentals to chase advanced skills, fancy techniques, or whatever's trending this month. And then, under pressure, those flashy moves collapse. Why? Because they were built on a shaky foundation. Musashi didn't make that mistake. He trained the basics until they couldn't break, until his body could execute them even in exhaustion, fear, or chaos, until he didn't have to think, he could just do. Now, here's the modern application. Whatever your craft is, business, music, athletics, coding, leadership, you have your own strikes, stances, and footwork. The core fundamentals that actually hold everything together. Identify them, and then practice them relentlessly. Not until you get them right once, until you can't get them wrong, even in the worst conditions. If you're a writer, fundamentals might be structure, clarity, pacing. If you're an athlete, form, endurance, core strength. If you're in business, communication, decision-making, consistency. The trick is, fundamentals aren't impressive to outsiders. They're boring to talk about, which is exactly why most people don't master them. And that's your advantage. Because while they're busy chasing shiny distractions, you're building something that can't be shaken. Here's the psychology behind it. Fundamentals compound. Every repetition strengthens the foundation, making every other skill easier to learn later. When you focus on fundamentals first, advanced skills stick faster, work better, and hold up longer. It's like building a skyscraper. You can either dig deep and lay reinforced concrete, or stack it on loose soil because you're impatient to see it rise. One will last. The other will crumble the moment the storm hits. Musashi's undefeated record wasn't built on tricks. It was built on the unglamorous truth. When your fundamentals are flawless, you become unshakable. Your opponent can't exploit a weakness that isn't there. So here's the challenge for you. Strip your craft down to its bones. Ask, what's the real foundation? What 3 or 4 skills hold up everything else? Then make those your obsession. Drill them until they feel like breathing, until pressure doesn't crack them, it activates them. Because one day, when it's time to reveal what you've been building in secret, you won't need to try to perform. You'll just perform. And to everyone else, it'll look like magic. But you'll know it was never magic. It was the basics, hidden in plain sight. And the beauty? Once your fundamentals are unbreakable, you can adapt to anything. New challenges, new opponents, new environments. You'll be able to move in any direction because your base is solid. And that is why the one who masters the basics quietly ends up ahead of those who try to skip them loudly. When your fundamentals are unshakable, you have something even more dangerous. The freedom to choose how others see you. And Musashi was a master of that. See, most fighters want their reputation to precede them. They want fear in their opponent's eyes before the first strike. But Musashi didn't always work like that. Sometimes he would do the opposite. He'd arrive late to a duel. He'd carry a wooden sword instead of steel. He'd move slowly, almost lazily. He'd let the other man think, this will be easy. And then, when the moment came, he would unleash speed, precision, and force that his opponent wasn't prepared for. It wasn't magic. It was psychology. When someone thinks you're harmless, they prepare less seriously. They cut corners. They leave openings. They relax. And that's when Musashi struck. Now let's talk about how you can use this today. In our world, most people can't resist flaunting their skills. They post every project, every win, every work in progress to prove they're ahead. They want applause now. But here's the hidden advantage of staying quiet. When you keep your full skill set under wraps, you remove the pressure of constant judgment. You avoid unnecessary competition, and you gain the element of surprise. Imagine this. 2 people are learning the same skill. Person A tells everyone, shares every step, shows off every small win. Person B trains in silence, posts nothing, keeps progress to themselves. When they finally compete, Person A will face someone they thought was still catching up, but Person B will have already passed them months ago. That's the disguise of mediocrity. You appear average, you seem behind, but in reality, you're building speed and strength where no one can see it. And it's not about playing dumb. It's about not revealing your full hand until it matters. This applies to business, to sports, to art, even to personal growth. If you're always broadcasting your improvements, people will try to block you, copy you, or outshine you. But if they don't even realize you're improving, they can't stop you. The psychology is simple. When people underestimate you, they don't prepare for you. They don't compete as hard. They give you more space to grow. Musashi knew this. He let his opponents think they were in control, right up until they weren't. So here's the challenge. Stop needing everyone to know you're winning right now. Resist the urge to flex your progress. Instead, let them think they're ahead. Let them grow comfortable, and while they're relaxed, thinking they've already beaten you, you're gaining ground every single day. Then, when it's time, when the stage is set, you reveal what you've been hiding, and it will be too late for them to catch up. Because in a world obsessed with looking strong, the deadliest weapon is being underestimated. And here's the thing. Being underestimated works best when you're not just waiting in the shadows. You're working in the shadows. This is where Musashi's deadliest weapon came in. Not his sword, not his speed, not even his strategies. It was his discipline. Musashi's life wasn't divided into training and rest. For him, life was training. Every moment was an opportunity to sharpen his edge. When he wasn't holding a sword, he was painting with a brush, training his precision. When he wasn't dueling, he was studying strategy, training his mind. When he wasn't walking to battle, he was walking alone through forests, training his awareness. This wasn't some on-again, off-again grind. It was woven into his daily existence, invisible to anyone watching. And that's the secret. Discipline isn't about making loud declarations like, "I'm going to start working out every day," or "I'm going to post my progress online so I stay accountable." That's public discipline, the kind that burns bright but fizzles fast. What Musashi had was private discipline, the kind that's silent, unshakable, and impossible to break because it's just who you are. Think about it like this. When you make your growth automatic, when your daily habits are built into your life, you remove the need for motivation entirely. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need hype. You just do the work because it's as normal as brushing your teeth. This is why most people plateau. They rely on bursts of motivation, gym challenges, new year, new me promises, accountability partners. But once that spark fades, they stop. Meanwhile, the person with hidden discipline keeps going, quietly, relentlessly, every single day. And the compound effect of that is terrifying. Because while others keep starting and stopping, you're stacking improvement like interest in a bank account no one knows exists. Here's the modern application. Build habits that strengthen you without needing to announce them. If you're a writer, have a set time each morning to write, even if it's only 200 words. If you're an athlete, slip in micro-training throughout your day, not just during official practice. If you're building a business, work on strategy and learning in quiet blocks when no one's watching. Make your routines invisible, not because you're hiding them on purpose, but because they're so normal to you that they don't even feel worth mentioning. That's the hidden engine. It's running whether the world sees it or not. And here's the psychology behind why it works so fast. When no one's watching, there's no need to perform for approval. You're not doing it to get likes or to impress anyone or to prove you're grinding. You're doing it because it's who you are. That's why it compounds faster than public discipline. Public discipline burns energy on appearances. Private discipline channels all of that energy into the actual work. And if you think that sounds boring, good. It should be boring. Because mastery doesn't grow in the thrill of the spotlight. It grows in the quiet, repetitive actions that nobody claps for. Musashi understood that, and that's why, when it was time to fight, he didn't need to prepare. He was prepared. While his rivals had been training for a few weeks, he'd been training for years without pause, in ways they couldn't even see. So here's your challenge. Don't just set goals. Build a hidden engine of discipline that runs without motivation. Weave your training into your life so tightly that people can't even tell you're training until the day you show them what it built. And when you combine that with everything we've already covered, hiding your forge, using reflection, mastering basics, and letting others underestimate you, you're not just improving, you're becoming unstoppable. And here's the final layer of this whole system. The thing that makes all your hidden work, all your discipline, all your mastery of the basics hit maximum speed. It's not about doing more. It's about cutting away what's useless. Musashi had a rule he lived by. Do nothing which is of no use. Simple, right? But here's why it's so deadly effective. Most people are losing not because they're not working hard, but because they're leaking energy everywhere without even realizing it. Musashi understood that every ounce of focus you spend on something irrelevant is an ounce you don't have for your craft. So he cut it all away. Not just big, obvious distractions like drunken parties or pointless arguments, even the small distractions, unnecessary conversations, tasks that didn't move him forward, even certain comforts that most people cling to, because he knew that the less clutter in your mind and your life, the sharper your blade becomes. Now here's where this applies to you. You can work hard in private, reflect deeply, master the basics, hide your strength, and have unshakable discipline. But if you're still feeding your mind with junk, or spending time on habits that give you nothing back, you're dragging an anchor behind you. It's like sharpening a sword every day, but letting it rust overnight because you keep leaving it out in the rain. That's how most people live. They put in effort, but they also waste it as fast as they earn it. So, what do you do instead? Step 1. Identify your energy leaks. That means being brutally honest about where your time and mental space actually go. Do you just check your phone for a few minutes and suddenly lose an hour? Do you say yes to things that don't matter because you don't want to seem rude? Do you fill your free time with noise instead of learning or rest? Musashi would have cut those instantly. Step 2. Create a distraction-free zone in your day. It doesn't have to be 8 hours. Even 1 hour of pure, uninterrupted focus can change the game. During that time, no phone, no social media, no quick errands, just the one thing that matters most to your growth. Step 3. Replace. Don't just remove. If you cut out a useless habit, swap it for one that compounds your skill. Cut an hour of scrolling, replace it with an hour of practice. Cut a pointless meeting, replace it with study or reflection. The psychology here is simple but powerful. When you remove waste, your effort compounds faster. Your brain stops constantly switching tasks. Your body stops burning energy on things that give you nothing back. It's like turning a scattered trickle of water into a high-pressure jet. The same amount of water, but infinitely more force because it's focused. That's why Musashi rose so fast. While other warriors were burning energy, chasing glory, distractions, and recognition, he was putting every drop into sharpening his blade, both literally and metaphorically. And here's the hidden benefit. Cutting the noise doesn't just free time. It also frees mental bandwidth. When you're not juggling pointless tasks, you have space to think clearly, to see patterns, to anticipate moves before they happen. That's how Musashi could enter a duel completely calm, almost casual, because there was no mental clutter, no wasted thought. Just pure readiness. So here's your move. Tonight, write down everything you did today. Mark every single thing that didn't actually move you toward your goal. Then, cut it. Not reduce it. Not limit it. Eliminate it. Do that. And suddenly the discipline you already have, the basics you've mastered, and the reflection you've been doing will all work 10 times faster, because nothing is slowing them down. This is the part most people will ignore because it's not fun, but that's exactly why it works. Cut the noise, sharpen the blade, and when you finally show what you've been building, it'll be too late for anyone to catch up. So here we are. You've learned every piece of the puzzle. You hide your training, keeping your forge out of sight so no one can study your progress. You reflect relentlessly, turning every experience into wisdom. You master the fundamentals, the invisible skills that win when the pressure's on. You let others underestimate you, giving them false confidence while you pull ahead. You build hidden discipline, a daily engine that runs no matter what, and you cut distractions, sharpening your blade by removing everything that dulls it. That's Musashi's way. And it's the opposite of how most people chase improvement today. They want to be seen getting better. They want applause for their effort before it's even complete. But here's the truth. Improvement isn't about being noticed while you grow. It's about being undeniable when you finally reveal yourself. When you live like this, your rivals won't see you coming. They'll think you're just another player. Until the day you step forward and end the game in a single move. Not because you got lucky, not because you leveled up overnight, but because you built power in secret. And by the time they notice, it's already too late. So remember Musashi's lesson. Be unseen until unstoppable. And if you're ready to live that way, here's your next move. If you haven't already, subscribe right now. Smash the bell so you never miss the next lesson. Like this video. Share it with someone who needs it. And drop a comment telling me how you're going to start improving in secret. Because the real work begins after you click away from this video. And I'll see you when you're ready to show the world what you've been building.